Hi, welcome to Studio Stories. Today we're going to be gilding with Palladium patent leaf. I've already prepared this piece with primer, sanded it down, used a velour roller, and then I applied a quick set gilding size. I've waited now an hour and 20 minutes because of the humidity here. It's about 1 to 3 hours before you can start gilding, and then you have 1 to 3 hours to finish your process, so do not go too far on time. What Palladium is a metal that is actually used a lot in the tech industry because it will never tarnish. Do not recommend using silver leaf because I can guarantee that in our climate you're going to have some problems. So the Palladium leaf is stuck onto here. And we're going to do the square by square by applying it, pushing it away. It's perfect gilding, you can tell because the tack is absolutely necessary. You do want to work quickly and you do not want to touch any part of it with your hands. You want to line it up, and you need to make sure that when you're ordering this product, you have enough room, or give yourself enough contingency for loss, because there's a certain amount that you're going to have to go back into it after you apply it. So this is the one coat. This is the process where you place each one by one. It makes it really difficult to really line up everything. But you want to move quickly and pretty systematically. You will have a chance, sometimes you have to, if you look at it, you might want to cross where the joining lines are, so every other one has a cross on it. But you just want to, like I said, move as quickly as you can so you're getting the leaf down. And your gilding time is not open for very long. I recommend using a slow set size. You have to apply it the night before, and it gives you longer open gilding periods. So you don't it's not a very good thing when you run out of the tack before you're done with the gilding. And every now and then there's going to be parts where the sticky paper sticks to the surface, and then you're going to have to go back in and do some touch-ups. There's not really much avoidance of that, and so it's just part of the process. Now this is a very time-consuming, step-by-step approach to it, and it's more for not quite so perfect lines, a little bit more, the connection points are a little different. But there's this other thing that's really awesome, which I'm going to do on the other side of this. Make us move forward a little quicker. There are a lot of areas that you miss. You have to go back in with another patent leaf and fill all those areas before the gilding time runs out. And you'll know when it runs out because then it stops sticking and adhering properly. However, if you want to expedite that process, there is Palladium on rolls. This can be very good and quick, and can also be very challenging if not done properly. You need to make sure you have a nice beginning. Sometimes it's easier for me if the Palladium's not sticking to the roll properly, which this one, it already feels like it's adhering differently every single time. I will place it downward. Actually, I need to go across here. I'll try to line it up as best I can. See, as you have it like this, you can actually, it's sticking a little bit, you can line it pretty nice and evenly with each section. You ask why not do this always? Because man, I've had one of these fall out of my hands on top of scaffolding, never to be able to retrieve it again. And so it does take a little bit more paying attention, so to speak. You want to try to keep your overlaps as close as you can, but it's not always easy. It's sometimes easier because the gilding is setting up, and if you went too far and you're not able to get to those areas, you can really mess up your process, because if you have to apply another coat, the substrate is very sensitive to the surface, and then you would be able to see where you added another coat to apply more gilding. So you definitely want to gild within the parameters that you're comfortable with. It's really tricky working with this material because it's super fragile and you don't want to touch it until you get the clear coats on here, and it's extremely expensive. So market price changes every day, and so before doing any bids, you better check with your gold distributor so you don't put yourself in a predicament. Done it before. Miscalculation, you have to, I would say, definitely need to save some time or order 20% extra material just to cover it, because with these precious metals, material cost and labor cost are very similar. With that being said, you want to make sure you're on it with that. I apologize, I'm not looking into the eye of the camera much, but I have to focus. So at this stage, this is looking really nice. I need to make sure to go in the hand part way, because sometimes that rustic look is more appreciated where it's not so perfect. When you use the rolls, you tend to create a very like machine-like almost, but I mean naturally the gilding will have character just because of this precious material. Palladium is an amazing element. I was introduced to it because people wanted to do exterior or interior gilding projects that, you know, palladium will not tarnish, but silver leaf, you better plan on it tarnishing. And sometimes that tarnished look is desired because it's an aged thing, but there's not much control with any kind of tarnishing. And so sometimes you'll get lucky and it'll tarnish to your favor, and other times not so much. So it's very important to know about your materials and the different techniques to help with using the right materials for each project that you're doing. Okay, now I'm going over to this other area. I'm going to make sure that in the rolls that anywhere that shows the background coming through, that I'm gilding, that we're adding a little bit more palladium to the cracks. And then, oh look, it doesn't want to take already almost. See, like, it really is important to move quick with the slow set. It's taking enough. And I still would like to take this paper that I initially used, and a lot of times I will just use the paper to help really make sure it's adhered good without creating any brush strokes And like I said, this thing, everything's so sensitive. You can see the roller marks from the velour roller I used to put the adhesive on, as well as the velour roller I used to apply the primer. So I always sand between coats of primer because I want to keep the substrate as flat and even as I possibly can. So at this stage we know we're covered. You notice there's a big difference from the areas that I rolled on and the areas that I placed one by one on. It has a different texture to it, and it's because of the way I rolled it on. This is a special brush. It's very soft. This is another gilding brush. This is the time when you want to take off all the excess without scratching the surface. You see that? It's pulling it off without scratching the surface. But you cannot use anything other than these type of brushes or else you're going to really have a problem. And then during this time, what you pull away, pay attention to the areas that need a little bit more attention, meaning the cracks and connection points, because you want to fill those while the gilding is happening, because every now and then there is areas that you'll have to go back, but it does lead to problems, or where if it's a very flat surface and the sun's coming in, you will see some of these things. It's not as forgiving as other materials, so to speak. It's kind of awesome to have your house full of gold and palladium flakes. My husband doesn't get mad at me because he's like, well, there could be dust in the ground, but you know, I can live with gold. It's kind of funny. It creates a mess. It's good to get a little vacuum cleaner just for this, which is kind of funny, actually. Or have a holiday. With any kind of holidays, you want to try to get some gold or get some palladium in there before it dries, before it sets up all the way. You can't really tell until you get all the excess off. And you want to pick up all extra pieces and try to use them. I recommend using gilding gloves, which normally I use, but I ran out and it'll take 2 weeks for them to get here. So if you notice these brushes, they're so soft, it's like incredible, that you can almost not even see the connection point lines of the paper. I'm actually liking the ribbon leaf better because it has a really neat crackle texture to it. That happened naturally because the way I rolled it off onto itself. And some rolls are not as, that roll happened to be really sticky, or not sticky enough. And some rolls, like for example, I did one with aluminum leaf, and that leaf is a lot sturdier. And so you can actually pick up the whole roll and push it down. Thank you so much. This will be continued on.